Hey, hey, hey. Okay, I'm super excited about this one. I'm actually looking for the right card. I am going through my secret sauce cards and I am looking for the secret sauce card that represents doing a PowerPoint presentation. So these cards, I have 40 different hands-on learning activities that are projects that my kids have done or just really fun ways to bring learning to life. And I want to walk you through how to do one. And I was doing one of my homeschool chats and I ran short on time. So anyway, let me dig out the card. One of the things that you can do with your kids is have them create a PowerPoint presentation. I really should. It's not a pop-up book. It's not a foldable. It's not a map. It's in here somewhere. So what I do with my kids is when we're going to be learning something, I'll put one of the project cards. Here we go. I'll put the project cards out on the table. And I'll say, okay, you're going to be studying, and for this, what I'm going to be showing you is what I did with Stephen, my youngest son, when he was studying ancient civilization. So I said, Stephen, this year you're going to be studying ancient civilization. What do you want your end project to be? And he chose a PowerPoint presentation where he was going to create and deliver a PowerPoint. And so I'm going to show you what that all looks like as we go through. So you ready? When you hop on, say hi, tell me where you're from, and tell me what you think about this whole PowerPoint presentation thing. So when you're doing something like mapping out ancient civilizations as a learning unit for the year, you have to have the goal of what the end project looks like. So when I was working with Stephen, I was like, Bud, ancient history is a big topic, or whatever it is that you're going to be studying with your kid. It's a big topic. So if at the end of the year, you're going to have this massive PowerPoint presentation that you're going to be standing in front of the family and delivering, it's going to need some organization to it. So let me share my screen. Well, and we talked about, so let me share my screen. Stephen and I decided that, wow, he would really like to do this end of year project. And he was going to do an ancient civilization PowerPoint. So we sat together and we talked about what this was going to look like. And then we mapped it out. And I created this outline for him to go through the year. So if you're going to have your kids do a PowerPoint presentation, you can give them something like this, right? My screen's backwards. You can give them something like that, and then they'll be able to work on it at their own pace. So let me show you what this looks like. So when my son and I sat down together, I told him, okay, you're going to do a PowerPoint presentation. It's going to take you a year to do this. So at the end of the school year, you're going to stand up and you're going to deliver this in front of the family. So let me get there. Your mission would be to complete this PowerPoint presentation. And then we walked through and we said, okay, what are all the topics that this PowerPoint presentation is going to cover by the end of the year? So I took notes on paper, and then I came back and I created this template for him. And in the descriptions, you'll find this in two different places. If you're inside Homeschooling with Secret Sauce, this template is already included in there. And if you're not, there is a link for you to get this actual template that I'm showing you. So we talked about learning a culture has to do with those primary things of what is it that defines that a culture is a civilization. And then what is the difference between an empire, a country, and a city-state? So the very first thing that I had Stephen do was to recognize that, okay, this is going to be a long project. There has to be this fundamental understanding of the topic first, and then he was going to dive into the different cultures throughout history. And so I introduced the concept to him first. So if you're going to be doing a PowerPoint, with your kids, and I have a trainer type thing to help you if you're going to do that. But your kids don't need as much help as you think they do. So you start by saying, here are the concepts of whatever it is that you're going to be studying. And then you can create a color-coded outline of the different types of things that they're going to be studying. And I'm going to show you why that is important in just a second. And then in this actual thing where he has these pages of the slides for his PowerPoint presentation, then I gave him the actual instructions. So over the course of the year, you're going to focus on one area of point in history a week. So you're going to create the cover slide, which would be the very first thing that you're going to be showing in your presentation. And you're going to use relevant pictures and images. Then for everything on the list, wherever the list is, for everything on the list, you can do only 2 or 3 slides. Because I don't know about your kids, but my kids can go to town when they start creating PowerPoint presentations. And then this was important, not too much text, just enough to give you speaking points or a quick glimpse so that you know where you are. Because we really talked about, if you're going to stand up and give a PowerPoint presentation, you have to understand this is such a huge skill to have your kids create. Let me get that off the screen. So it's so important that, why a PowerPoint? Well, we live in 2022. And so we're doing Zoom classes, we're doing online workshops, we're doing classes and teaching and presentations and such. And when we want to teach our kids how to give a presentation, they need to know their audience and they need to not overwhelm them with too much information. So one of the key points when I designed this PowerPoint presentation for my son and for potentially your sons and daughters is that they need to understand that you don't need too much text on a slide. If you put too much background noise in terms of words on a screen, it's completely distracting. And people can't focus on what it is you're saying because they're spending all their energy trying to read all the fine print. So it's important that the kids understand as they're building a PowerPoint presentation or a slide presentation, what the end result needs to be. When you're talking about a topic, it should have an image. It should have bullet style texts, and it should have relevant pieces of information. But it shouldn't look like you just opened an encyclopedia and then you put all the information on there. Does that make sense? So one of the slides in this project that we created had all the directions on there. So no more than 2 to 3 slides per topic. And then at the end, you'll see that there are bonus activities that can help supplement this. And then there's a resource down here to get him started. So imagine that you want your child, your students, your kids, your homeschoolers to study ancient civilization, bats, how to play a video game, how to change the oil in the car, anything. They're going to have a topic and they're going to create a presentation that at the end of the year, they're going to stand up and deliver it in front of you, your husband, your family, your grandma, whoever. They're going to actually do a presentation. So they're going to create these slides, or you're going to create these blank slides for them, not blank, but outlined slides. And then this is going to be what they do for the year. So here they're going to have one topic per week. They know what the relevant pieces of they're going to have images, a little bit of wording, etc. So here is where I wrote the first topic. So the very first thing, if studying a culture, so in my son's case, you're going to be studying ancient civilization, you need to define what is needed to call a group of people a civilization, or what are the basic elements of civilization? What is the difference between an empire and a country and a city-state? And you're going to start to apply that to the culture of Mesopotamia. Okay, so then he went through And I'm going to show you his presentation in a minute because I want you to see how he applied this type of thought. Kids don't need a lot of direction to actually do this. They need a program. When I say PowerPoint, I use Google presentation. That's what my kids have always used because we just don't have PowerPoint at home. But you could do PowerPoint, you could do Google presentation, you could do Adobe, you could also do Canva has presentation type things. You just need to create a page that has multiple pages. So there's slides that you can insert images. Does that make sense? If you have questions, let me know. I'll answer questions at the end. So here's the first topic. He's got bonus projects that he can do where I went through and I found some fun food type projects to go with different cultures. Then I also found some crafts that he could do for the different cultures. And then examples. Here's an example of some of the slides that my son created as he was actually doing this project. So more pictures, more pictures, more pictures. So when your child gets something like this, these pages would go away. They would just get, hey, you're going to be doing an ancient history mission, or here's your mission to study how to change a tire on a car. Then you're going to say, here are the topics that you're going to be doing. What kinds of, if you're talking about bats, what is the family of animals that bats belong to? What are their characteristics? What is their reproductive cycle? What do they eat? Where do they live? All those would be color-coded type things. Does that make sense? And then you would tell them, okay, for each of those things, so what a bat eats, you're going to create an image, and then you're going to do 2 to 3 slides total of that particular thing, of what a bat eats or where it lives or whatnot. So let me switch over and let me show you Stephen's actual presentation that he did. And why do I keep saying Stephen? Let me see who's on. Would this count as a subject? This would absolutely, thank you for asking, because this is a brilliant question. Notice that you have to tell me what your name is because Facebook doesn't tell me using this program. Would this count as a subject? This counts as, if depending on what topic you do. So the one I'm showing you is history. This would count as history. It could count as science, which I'll explain in a second, and it definitely counts as writing. So and reading. So this type of a project spans multiple subjects. So let me show you my son's presentation. Let me stop that one. So we took those slides and I gave him the white slides with the color, and every week he would choose, or he wouldn't choose, he would pick the next topic, and then he would start to move through his presentation. And so the first week he did the cover slide. Let me go to the very beginning. So he did the cover slide. And then he was like, what does it take to make a civilization? Because remember, that was super important for him to figure out, well, what is a civilization? And then he's like, each culture has multiple categories. So there's different things that make a civilization a civilization. And then here are the things. They have cities. They have an organized government. They have religion. They have writing. They have a social structure. They have art, and they have specialized jobs. Beautiful, right? So, hey, Priscilla, beautiful, right? So once Stephen got that far in the presentation, I said, okay, out of those 8 things, which are the ones that stand out to you? What do you want to know the most about? Because with those points of a civilization, now what you're going to do is you're going to use that as a magnifying glass, and you're going to look at each of those cultures, and you're going to peel out the parts of civilization that are most interesting to you right now. So he went on to say, out of those 7 things that make a civilization, I picked 1 or more to highlight in each culture. I picked these one or more. So there's a typo in there and I missed it. So in ancient Mesopotamia, he focused on writing. And then he went through and just look at the images. He found all the images and he did all the writing, all the research and everything. So this section of Mesopotamia would have been a week's worth of work. He would have done the reading, he would have found the images, he would have done the writing. Notice that there's not a lot of words on the slides. Then he went on to ancient Egypt, and so for Mesopotamia, he focused on writing. For Egypt, he focused on the social structure, and he found some beautiful pictures. I didn't pre-read this again before I went through. He talked about a clear line for citizens to follow, the pyramid of power. When he did this, when he focused on this, I love that you can count things for multiple subjects. It's absolutely important that when you look at something that has cross connections, that you give your kids more time and space to do these things. Imagine how freeing it was for Stephen to focus on these things and realize that he was checking off history, reading, and writing for the day. It was extremely freeing. And as he went through and he was working on this, when it started to be close to the end of the school year, then we started to fine tune and talk about oral presentation and how you stand and where you look in a room and how much detail. Some of these slides were power packed with text, and we had to cut it down and edit and chop, because you can imagine he's standing in front of the crowd. In our house, it's a crowd because there's a lot of us. He's standing in front of the crowd and he's talking about ancient Egypt. If there's too many words on the screen, number one, he'd be tempted to read it and not just talk about what he learned. But number two, it's really distracting to have a lot of words on the screen. But this type of a project is super powerful. Let me see where I'm at in here. So he did ancient Egypt. He did social structure for Egypt. He did specialized jobs in Phoenicia, where he talked about trades, and he talked about sailing. And he talked about the fact that there were a lot of specialized jobs in Phoenicia, and he had the jobs helped everybody in everyday life. In ancient Greece, he talked about art and government. Can you see how, going back, let me grab this one slide. Let me actually grab these slides and pop them in so that you can see. So let me grab these. Let me add them in here so you can see. Oh, they're black. It changed it with the background. Okay, that's okay. Is that thing in the way? It is. Let me go away. Okay. On the original one, the backdrop was white, but this is the original assignment. So he took this right here. What is needed to call a group of people? What is needed to call a group of people a civilization? What's the difference between empire and city? And then he's going through the different cultures. And if you can see that, he would then say, so we're over here he's in Phoenicia. So he got that right from this list right here, Phoenicia. So he spent a week, maybe two, looking at Phoenicia, and then he went on to create these slides, finding the images that he wanted to do. Does that make sense? This was such an amazing project for him at the end of the year. And he looked at art and government when he was studying Greece. Beautiful images. He loved the art. I loved that, looking at the different areas of civilization, that he was able to look at a culture and say, ooh, this culture really lends itself to me looking at, in this case, art and cities, when he was looking at Rome. And he loved looking at the different artists. You've seen, if you've followed me at all, you've seen some of Stephen's sculptures and things that he did. He's an artist himself, so that really speaks to him as he's looking at the cultures. In China, he did a lot of talking about the specialized jobs that they had, scholars, doctors, warriors, farmers, artists, craftsmen, etc. So just look at this presentation that he did. I did not design this presentation. I did not do the research. I did not find the images. Instead, I love that. And that's what makes an ancient civilization a civilization, or whatever he said. It was funny. So the cool thing is that that beautiful PowerPoint presentation was all his own. He went through and he figured out what theme he wanted to use, what kind of images he wanted to use. He played a lot with font and color. We talked a lot about how much information to put on a slide. And we talked a lot about, you need more white space so that people can actually read what it is. They need to glance and grab a tidbit of information and then look to you as you're talking. And at the end of the year, he stood in front of the family and he went through that entire PowerPoint presentation, talking about the different cultures, the different civilizations, the different aspects of civilization, why it was important to him, why he was interested in it. And it was beautiful. Wasn't it beautiful? And so your kids can do the same kind of thing. You can give them a simple outline on a PowerPoint presentation. You teach them, this is how you make a slide. So let's go over, let me pull up a new page here. Go to new. Will it open? Of course, it's going to open in another page. So let me open it. You can open up a PowerPoint presentation or a Google Slides presentation. And here's a blank slide presentation. This is Google. It's free. Inside the actual project that you either purchase on Teachers Pay Teachers or that you get inside of Homeschooling with Secret Sauce. If you're not inside, there's a trial of the membership. Please jump in and see. It's so cool. So there's a trainer that it kind of walks them through as like it's a Mission Impossible type thing, has 10 or 12 different tasks that they do. And it walks them through all the elements here inside Google Slides. Why Google Slides? It's free. It's on Google, which means it automatically saves. And it's the tool that we had available to us when actually all through our homeschooling career. So all of these things, this is called a text box. The kids, let's just say that we're talking about PowerPoint. And don't judge me if I misspell, because that's my thing. I just misspell. You can drag and drop and add. So here's PowerPoint presentation. You can eliminate things on there. You can add images. Do I have any images? I can add this goofy hair, this funny hairdo. If you don't do crazy hair day, you need to do crazy hair day with your kids, because that's just cool. If you had long hair, make a spider. So PowerPoint presentation. You show your kids a couple basic things. This is how you open it up. Right here, this is where you place the title. Can you see that in the upper left hand? That's where you place the title. This is a slide. If you want to add another slide, you go, see right here, this is called a toolbar. You go to where it says slide and you click, and then you add new slide and a new one opens up. You can add another new slide and another one will open up, and suddenly you have 3 pages. Then you can show them, if I click on this, I can change the background color. I can make it a different color. That's a really ugly color, yellow. Ooh, that's really, really ugly. So we wouldn't do that. And we talk about things like aesthetics and what kinds of colors work. You can talk about changing the way that text looks with the font, the way, the style of the lettering, by just picking any kind of different fun texts. You can talk about how to make the text bigger, how to make them smaller, etc. And your kids will take it from there. It's the very first PowerPoint. Yay! Okay, so you're going to start one on reptiles. So one of the things that you want to teach your kids right from the beginning is, if you're making a PowerPoint presentation or an art project just for you, you can add images and things from the internet without any problem. if you're going to share the things that you're learning, you want to start by teaching your kids to give credit to where they found things. So if I go on the internet and I'm just going to randomly pull up a picture of a reptile for a second, and you can't see it because I'm on a different screen and it takes too long. So let's just say that I pick this really cool picture and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it. Oh, no, I got to do it a different way. I'm going to save it and then upload it in. So so say we're going to do lizards, reptiles. So if I was going to do a presentation on reptiles, I would think, well, remember, go back to what do I want? That's not how you spell reptiles, Miss Bekki. I know. Reptiles. Sorry, Miss Emily. Did I spell it right yet? Reptiles. So if I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation on reptiles, I was going to set my kids up for success. We would talk about first, what do you already know about reptiles? What do you want to know about reptiles? And this is where what do you want to know about reptiles? So first you could put some information, but you can talk about, this would be the assignment slide. It could be, what is a reptile? What is a reptile? How many types of reptiles are there? Don't judge my spelling. Don't judge it. Don't judge my misspelling. How many types of reptiles are there? Say, what do they eat? What do they eat? Etc. You're going to create a bullet list right from, what do you want to know? What do you want to know about reptiles? Does that make sense? And so it's amazing. Whoops, I hit the wrong screen. From there, you're taking the kids' desire of what they want to learn, and then you're infusing it into the project plan. So you're helping them project plan it. And then now you're going to say, okay, this right here is 1, 2, 3 weeks worth of studying on the reptiles. And so as they're playing with the slides, as they're learning how to do it, this is their assignment sheet. You can put your project goes below here. And the reason you would do that is so they always have their assignment handy. And delete slides. They always have their assignment handy. And then this is where it's kind of a placeholder card. So now if I do a new slide and my first thing is, what is a reptile? I can do, what is a reptile? And then you can insert a cool image. So remember, I grabbed a picture from the internet. So I can pull that up. It's this one. Look at this picture. Oh, it's unsupported. Seriously? Dude, so now I got to do it the more illegal way. I'm just going to do a screenshot. And I'm going to add it in here. And I did this on purpose because I want to show you something. So there it is. When you add an image from the internet, cool reptile, you don't just want to steal an image, right? You want to give credit. So you can go to the original site and you can find the file and you want to give credit for where you found the image. At least start teaching that to your kids at the beginning. They can learn the formal how you cite things later, but you can just add a simple photo credit down at the bottom. Now I did that super fast. I'm going to add a text box down here. So I go right here to where it says T, and I'm just going to click on that. And then it does see that plus sign. It's a drag and drop thing, creates a box. And then I can add the image. I can do photo credit. Photo credit. And that way, right from the get-go, your kids learn that they need to actually give credit to the original artist or photographer. So what is a reptile? And then from here, they can play with, all kinds of stuff. Give them a day or 3 to just play with how this works. Do the actual trainer, which is inside Secret Sauce, where they learn to add titles, add pictures, add different things. And you will be stunned with the things that your kids teach you in this whole PowerPoint presentation again. So the bottom line is that when you're doing anything with Secret Sauce, so you've decided that you and your kids are going to study reptiles. And so you've chosen the Secret Sauce project of doing a PowerPoint presentation. Don't neglect the planning. Make sure that you take the time to outline so that they have a clear guideline of what it is that they're doing. And then, Secret Sauce style, make sure that you slow down so that you give tons of time for them to actually read and watch the documentary and take some notes and find some images. Because at the end of the day, when the year is over, and I got rid of the slide. I was going to pull it back up, and then it was gone. So at the end of the year, when they pull up their presentation and they have something fancy to show, and they're standing in front of dad or they're standing in front of grandma, what you're going to find is that the kids own it. They own what they've learned. They're excited about what they learned, and they blow away their audience. No matter who their audience is, whether it's older brothers and sisters, whether it's their parents, your parents, whether it's neighbors down the street or whatnot. This is a powerful thing. You can start teaching how to do PowerPoint presentations as early as kindergarten, as long as you're right there to answer questions. My computer's about to die. As long as you're right there to answer questions and to help make sure that they're safe on the internet. But PowerPoint presentations are an amazing way to teach oral communication, which is one of our core homeschool goals, right? We want our kids to be excellent communicators. So a PowerPoint presentation helps kids fine-tune their language, helps them, just like a children's book author has to carefully choose what words are on the page because you don't want to overwhelm kids with too much text. When your kids are doing something like a PowerPoint presentation, they're learning to condense what they're learning into bite-sized pieces and then to hold all the good stuff back so that they have stuff to talk about. And then when they're standing and they're delivering, so if this was my presentation, what we would do is we would project our PowerPoint presentation onto the screen. This is too busy. Like this would be a not good PowerPoint presentation slide. Instead, do I have another one? This would be a better one. This would be a better PowerPoint presentation slide because it's not filled with a bunch of text. So it has an interesting picture to look at. And as your child is giving their presentation, they have something to point to. They also have something to look at because eye contact can be a little bit intimidating for our kids. So when they're looking at the PowerPoint presentation, they could absolutely be standing there and they could be touching the reptile's nose, right? Or if they're talking about the anatomy of the reptile or whatever their focused animal is or their focused thing, they have the ability to touch and talk. So it kind of gives them a little bit more comfort. Does that make sense? PowerPoint presentations. They were some of my kids' favorite things to do. And I think that if you give your kids the basic skills of this is how you open it, this is how you entitle it, this is how you create the slides, this is how you can change color and font, this is how you can add an image. Once they have that down, they're going to blow you away with their ability to actually put together some pretty incredible things. And then you just need to help train them if they don't have any color awareness or something. Like when I threw up that yellow color, it was like, ooh, that hurts my eyes. My kids like to choose really weird fonts that are really hard to read or colors that are really hard on old eyes. So we did a lot of just talking through it. So important that we coach our kids. When you're looking at a slide and you can tell it needs tweaking, so you fine tune your language. Like, wow, you really worked hard on this. What made you choose that color combination? Okay, when I look at, can you read it really well? That's amazing. My eyes really have a hard time with that color yellow lettering. What if you played with a different color lettering and see if it would be easier for someone like me to read? Can you come up with a couple more choices? And then I want you to see what you can do. Why don't you make 3 slides with 3 different color combinations, and then we can choose, like, which one do you think looks best? So all they need to do is go here and they can make couple copies of the slide. Can you see that on the side? Over here on the left, there's now 3 of the same exact slide. Let's leave this one the same way, but this one, this second one, let's change the background color. Can you find a color that you think is ugly, that doesn't work? Oh, I'm sorry, but that color really hurts my eyes. Okay, so, and now let's pick one that you think might go with that whole background. Maybe this color, maybe you like blue. What do you think about changing the way that the lettering is on the page? Do you like it when it's white? Do you want the whole background black? That might be interesting. Just make it black. And then make this big so that everybody can see it, even if it's across the room. Oh, that's too big. That's too big. But see how even in this, if we were just talking for a second, they did this, they found an image that they like, they credited where they found the image because you walk through that. And now you're just like, okay, now let's look at all 3 of these slides. Which one do you like the best? Okay, why? Is it the color? Is it easier to read? And can you see how that's a super powerful, it's more of a life lesson of communication. It's a life lesson of, hey, what looks good to you may not look good to me. And so you can take this idea of a PowerPoint that you're doing with your kids, that you're having your kids do, and it just spans like so much in the whole learning process. So anyway, that's how you can approach a PowerPoint presentation with your kids. And again, I'll go ahead and I'll pull up my son's one more time because I think it's worth sharing, just so that you can see it. I just have to remember where it is. Open. Let me do shared with me, and it's ancient civilization. We'll get it open. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, let me put it up here. So not lizards anymore, but now the PowerPoint. So again, this is the type of thing that your kids can do where they started with a slide that looks like this. Change the background on this one so you can actually see it. So his assignments started like this. Each week is a different color. The first slides are what is needed, like what is a civilization? And that's exactly what he did. He did these slides of what does it take to make a civilization. And then he focused on each one of those aspects and then went on to make just this beautiful PowerPoint presentation. So this is a very, very, very powerful, I wasn't showing you my screen. So very, very powerful. It started like this. Sorry about that. It started like this. And then each one of those topics turned into a slide or 2 or 3 about the different things. And at the end of the year, he stood up and he talked about ancient civilization through the lens of what it takes to call a civilization a civilization. So again, this works with kids of all ages. There is a trainer inside. See where it is. It's called a scavenger hunt. I'll show you what that looks like. Make a copy. Inside the actual pack, there it is. is a trainer, and inside the trainer, it has get started, scavenger hunt. Your mission is to complete the 10 activities. And in blue, it tells your kids what to do. Change the page setup of this presentation. You want to make it the size of a piece of paper. And then it gives you a little clue right down here. You go to File, Page Setup, Custom, 8.5 by 11. There's not a lot of instructions here. It's meant to be a struggle through it activity where it gives them just enough to wet their whistle. And then with your kids' tenacity, they figure out how to do it. Once they've gone through that Google slide trainer, now they're ready to do PowerPoint presentations. And each and every one of them gets better and better and better and better. So anyway, that's how you can embrace the secret sauce idea of making a PowerPoint presentation. It works beautifully for older kids, but it works really well for younger kids as long as you're right there to assist them. And I used it when I was surrounded by kids as a group project. The very first one that we did was a PowerPoint presentation on bats. And my oldest son did the research and the writing. And then the different kids either helped pick the pictures or the colors. And then the very little kids, because they were very little then, they actually recorded, and we would whisper in their ear what they would say because they couldn't read yet, and they would record their little voices. And then at the very end, you would press play and it would be their voices, and it would go through, and they were so proud of that thing. So you can do this with any age. Anyway, that's it. What do you think? Is it something that you're going to try? I know Miss Priscilla is going to try it. So is it something that you're going to try? Definitely, if you can't find the link for the trainer, and if you're looking for anything, just hit me up and I will make sure that you get pointed in the right direction. And if your kids actually do a PowerPoint, I would love to see it. I'd love to pat them on the back and let them know, well done, good job. So anyway, that's it. Go have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon.